In the very beginning, we had a recall. The bike crashed under certain conditions, and then we decided to make a recall where we sold 200, which doesn't sound too much today, but at this time it was a really big number for us, and we were close to getting out of business. But what I learned from this thing, I have to get better. I have to get better.
From Escape Collective, this is Overnight Success, the podcast about the entrepreneurs, the personalities, and the passionate people who make up the sport of cycling and the stories behind the icons they've built. To most of us, it would seem inconceivable to build one of the biggest bike brands in the world from absolutely nothing. Think of the capital it would require, the global distribution, the complex supply chains, logistics, manufacturing, sales, design. It's a daunting endeavor and hard to imagine where you'd even begin. In this episode, we speak to Roman Arnold, the founder of Canyon Bikes, about how he started cycling as a way of competing for recognition and approval from his father over his three brothers. He started from humble beginnings, got his hands dirty, educated himself, and grew Canyon to be one of the largest cycling brands in the world. He did it through baby steps, hard work, diligent spending, and most of all, a true passion for cycling. Now, I have to apologize for the audio quality in this episode. Sometimes the technical setup of these conversations doesn't go as planned, but Roman's story is just too good not to share.
So when I was 14 years old, I started bike racing. And the reason before I started bike racing, I have to say, I did play soccer and other things, but the big difference in the end in bike racing was that only one guy can win. So when I came home from my mom from a soccer game, my mom asked, "How was it today?" I only most of the times, hopefully, I could say we win. But when I started bike racing, it was a little different because there are 80 people at this time there were 80 guys in a junior race, and it took some time before I could say I win or I'm on the podium. Sometimes it already was good if you are in the top 10. But in the end, the story started that I want to show my father that I can do something. So it's really very personal. So the relationship with my father started really when I started bike racing. So when I started bike racing with 14 years, the good thing was that I could spend more time with my father because he was really supporting me, going on the weekend with me to the races. And I saw that he was very proud when I did something good there. We are three brothers, and all of the three brothers try to get the attention from the father. And my father, a sales rep for a big American company, and we didn't see him during the week because he was traveling around. We only saw him on the weekend. So all three boys tried to get the attention from the father. And when I started bike racing, so I saw, wow, I get more attention from my father. And if something was in the local newspaper, then he says, "Oh, Roman won, or he did a good race today." So this made him very proud. So this was really something that I say, I, as a young boy, want to show to my father that he can be proud of me. This, in the end, remains a little bit like today. So when I was a good racer, but I never was good enough to go to the Tour de France, but I was good at a local level. So in Rheinland-Pfalz, I was one of the best riders. I was able to go to some of these junior stage races like Grand Prix Rübliland, which was a famous one in this time. And I was also good enough that when I was 18 years old, when I was called by the military, I would have been able to go to the brigade where I could cycle. So you only have to do the first 3 months, and then they support you in cycling because you are already in a certain uh, support from the government. Uh, but shortly after I did my Abitur, which I think is high school or so in the English system before you go to university, uh, my father passed away. Uh, and this, yeah. And before what I did, even during school, the thing was we didn't have a bike shop before. My father was a sales rep. We went to the race. And after we did this, maybe for half a year, my father said, "Oh, Roman, on one hand, the uh, whole cycling is so expensive. Uh, and on the other hand, if you go to the race, it's boring for me. I'm a sales rep, and uh, there was not so much supply on the special parts like Clement tires. They were the first Assos shorts. There was at this time they were the first overshoots. So there still were world jerseys. So we started to import things from Italy and sold the things at our trailer at the races, at the small races. Uh, so this was how everything started. I raced on the weekend, and my father, and later my younger brother Frank, and my mother, they sold the stuff on the race. So this is how the business started. Sometimes I took some days off in school without, of course, telling the school guys, and I went with my father to buy the things in Italy. And this was how everything started. And so also my relationship suddenly got so much closer to a father who was never present because he was a sales rep, and we have to be with our mother. So, and after he passed away, and I just finished my school, thing was okay. I had the call from the army to this military uh, cycling division, which maybe could be the next step to the next level, uh, and I could go to university. But then after my father passed away, we were sitting there, and uh, together with my godfather, the decision was made. Oh, I had to work in his company and to be a trainee on sales to get uh, something like this trainee on sales in import export. And in the evening, I did our small garage show together with my brother, and I did this for a while. And I think because for many years I still want to satisfy uh, my father that I can make something great. Uh, so the company getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So from a small bike shop, we moved to a bigger bike shop to Koblenz, which was the next biggest town. So first, our garage shop was in a town where there's only 800 people. Uh, and all from the area, they know, okay, here we can buy the custom-made Italian bikes from Somek, from Pinarello. So we took the orders from our customers. We only had custom-built bikes. But already in this garage, after a time, I was able maybe to sell 300 custom-built bikes a year. In the evening, uh, after after I come home from this education as a sales guy. And then in the next step, I had an education as a bike mechanic because my father had a relationship uh, with Mr. Fender, who was a mechanic for the German national team, and he also at this time was a 6 days mechanic for Didi Durau and Gregor Braun. So I was able to get a bike mechanic education in his shop. Again, I had to spend my time between this education and working at home, and his shop was more than 100 k away from my hometown. So I had to do these things, and then the next step, we had a bigger shop in Koblenz, uh, and this also worked well. Uh, and then after a while, we say, okay, we not only want to do retail, maybe we want to do a wholesale. Uh, One of my good friends were Jürgen Zeck. Jürgen Zeck was a famous triathlete at this time from my hometown here. He was 30 years ago, he was second in Ironman Hawaii. And he was the fastest guy on the bike for a long time in this area. And we founded together a company called RTI, which means Radsport Triathlon Innovations. Radsport means cycling products. Uh, and, and he was in wintertime in San Diego training there. And then we start to import things from there. And at this time, we get the distributor for Quintana Roo, which was the first special tri bike. And when we imported the Quintana Roo bike, we sold a lot to some shops, but the supply were not like it should be from the United States. And so therefore I asked, we had all these orders, but no supply. So I asked Dan Emfield if it would be possible to license his frame and to build it in Taiwan, to make a little bit more professional way. Before, his frames were built in Mexico, close to the Californian border, and it didn't work out really good. But the geometry, all the things Dan did was great on this bike. So he gave me the license, but I never had any experience in building these bikes. But for me, it was something, at the time with my father, we went to Italy to import the latest stuff from Italy and sell it at the races. So maybe my new Italy is Taiwan. So I went for the first time to Taiwan, and this worked out. We sold the bikes very well, but in the end, I had to figure out after a few years, that the tri market was a very small market. So we import these things. We also were the importer for soft ride. I don't know if you remember the soft ride bikes, the B rolls.
Yeah. How could you forget the soft ride?
Yeah. So we were the importer for soft ride. We also did soft ride bikes in license. Our brand was called Excite. So we asked these guys. So I had starting getting experience in making bikes in Asia. And there I built a lot of connections. And then a few years later, my younger brother, Frank, finished his university. And in the meanwhile, I did the shop and the wholesale. And after he finished university, both our goal was to, what we started together with our father, we want to continue. But at this time we said, maybe I don't, a friend said, woman, it's better to keep both business separate. Either I do the wholesale business with RTI, with Quintana Roo, with SoftRide. We were the Speedplay distributor and some other brands. We were the Topic distributor. So we want to do the wholesale, and I went back to my original cycling shop. So we separated the business, that he was in charge of wholesale and I go back to the shop. And then later, with this experience I had before from Asia, after a while I said, I have some experience how to do bikes in Asia, but I also see that the big brands I carried in my shop, which were Trek, Cannondale, Specialized, some of these guys, their product managers, came to us in the shop and asked us, what are the cool things for next year? What do you want to change on our bikes that maybe we can sell them better in Germany? So when we investigated this, there was more and more the wish that maybe we can do our own bikes. So, and this in the end was the start of Canyon, that we say, okay, with my experience I had before in Asia and the very good knowledge, because I always was in very much passion with the sport, especially road racing in the beginning. And therefore, I think we know the demand from our customers very well, because it's still our passion. I didn't start the business because I say this is a great business, I can make some money here. No, because I love the sport and I know what my customers want, because I ride the bike by myself. So I choose the employees around me. in a similar way. And this is how we started the business in the end. And then from there, we say, maybe we can be the new Dell for the cycling industry.
Did you have a long-term vision and strategic plan at this point, or were you just going off gut feel and, following the trends and entrepreneurial instincts?
Actually, I have to say, I would say I'm a typical entrepreneur. So there was not the super big plan, the strategic plan. Sometime I want to be a global brand. Uh, but there was a plan that I want to have to create my own brand and to make it consumer direct and to make a difference. But it was all step by step. It was not uh, made on the big board that I say, these are all the recipes I have to put together. It was something like try and error in the beginning. But for me, it was clear in a similar way uh, uh, and with my father, okay, I want to do something outstanding. To stand out of the three brothers, which doesn't sound, maybe sound a little bit strange, you have to show something. Uh, this was also the big difference, I have to say, uh, between cycling and soccer. So I would say I'm a team player, but in soccer, uh, either it says your club, they won today, or they lose. Uh, but in cycling, it's much more difficult to stand out because there are 50 guys, 80 guys, 100 guys in a race, and only one guy can win. But if you win, you stand out. This was something that was exciting for me, and this is still exciting today because I think Canyon is a brand where competition is still very important for us. We want to win. Uh, this is also what drives us. Doesn't drive us that we say we want to have a great value bike, but it drives us that we say we want to have the fastest bike at Ironman. We want to uh, getting better and better. We want to have the right product for our guys in the World Tour teams, and we listen to them and to go to the next level. This is what drives us, uh, and this is what started already as a child.
So the biggest difference between Canyon and most of your competitors is that you've held a strong belief in being a direct consumer brand. When did that line of thinking begin?
The first step in being a consumer, the direct brand, was that I went to Taiwan, and what I know at this time that I say, okay, I know how good geometry looks like. Because we also sold still Italian bikes like Colnago, like Somek, like Pinarello. So we know how the bike felt, and we also know what is a weight. We know basic things like what weight makes a bike stiff and what makes it not. So more or less our very first bike, they weren't too special on engineering because we just went to the vendors and said, this is the direction we want to have, but we were very good in spec. So we know all the specs, and because we could send it consumer direct, we had a great bike at a great price, but not too special, honestly, I have to say. So these were the very first steps. Then we brought these bikes to the magazine and asked them to test the bikes. And yeah, we were tested very well. In the beginning, it was more like uh, some of the magazines who tested us, they got problems with their customer because suddenly there was a bike that was riding very well. It was right, that had a great spec, but cost 30, 40, 50% less than a Colnago or a Pinarello or at this time. So some of the customers said, some of the customers of the magazine, the readers of the magazine said, how you can test a bike like Canyon so good and the price is so low. This was something what was very difficult to understand. And they said, maybe they give something to the magazine, otherwise you could not test it. But it was not like this. It was just uh, that we had a good spec bike with the right geometry, with the right features, which somehow was okay for us to make, but honestly, it was not too special.
Why did you choose the name Canyon? Why did that resonate with you?
Honestly, I have to say the very, very first bikes we had, but only for half a year, were not called Canyon. They were called Radical. They were called radical because at this time we were young and we say we want to be radical. So we had mountain bikes, road bikes with radical. At this time, bar ends were very popular. So we had the radical bikes with horny horn, bar ends, and big burrito saddle. But then actually, I have to say, we figured out radical was too radical and not in the end what we want to do. So we want to we will sharpen our vision, what we want to do in the future. And then we choose the name Canyon because Canyon is something that is there for a long time. Canyon is something that is very impressive. Canyon has a lot to do with nature. It's very special. So this was the reason then why we chose Canyon. This was much more uh, special, individual, but also much closer to nature, what we want to be, to outdoor, outside, that you can feel the outdoor. We weren't really clear if it would work for road bike, but we were very sure that it will work for mountain bike. But we were looking for a brand name that can work for road and mountain at the same time.
With German being your first language and that deliberate choice of an English brand name, is this when you began to have broader and more global ambitions?
Yes, uh, everything is uh, very personal. So uh, I did read a book at this time from Stephen Covey, which maybe many of you uh, know. And one important thing was to have the end in mind. If you start something, have the end in mind. And uh, my end in mind was that I also that I pretty early, for example, uh, figured out I need to have the domain canyon.com. I think 1998 something. I figured out, okay, I have the Canon DE, but then for other countries it was difficult to get the name, and I said the only thing I need to have Canyon.com, but Canyon.com already was taken by somebody, so I bought it in the US from a broker for something like 30,000 US dollars, which was a huge money at this time for us. So this was one thing, and then I started to trademark the Canyon brand in more and more countries. So even if we were very small, we started to trademark it in more and more countries. It was not always easy. There was one big mistake I did in the beginning. So for a long time, we owned the trademark Canyon mainly all over the world, but we didn't own it in Switzerland because there was one brand Canyon in Switzerland that trademarked the names a few years earlier. So very close to us, but it was also a small brand we didn't know. So we were not able to sell Canyon bikes for many years in Switzerland. So last year we were able to make an agreement with this guy. And now finally I can say more or less I own the name, really a global name. We own the trademark all over the world. But in the end, yeah, you have to work very early on this, otherwise it didn't work out.
And you were selling online direct at this time? Or is this still the vision you had that you were working towards?
No, first we had our catalog, but then very soon when online came on, we tried to sell online. Yeah, and we had our very first website made by the local guy. Then we switched the website to go to a bigger agency. So I would say we really were very, very early on website. We were very, very early. It was a very simple uh, website, super simple. And for a long time, we still kept our catalog. Uh, but I think then in the early years of 2000, we didn't have the catalog anymore. We only had uh, the website. And of course, there were some uh, people in the beginning said, I cannot buy a bike online because I have to test ride it. Uh, we very early had our PPS system, which was a system to make sure that the customer get the right size. But this was actually not too difficult for me because when I started my garage shop in the small village, I built a lot of custom bikes. So that bike has to fit to the customer was clear to me. And the key measurement is the inseam you measured, and then you need like the top of your body, the shoulders, you need two, 3 more measurements, and then you can make pretty sure that the bike will fit to the guy. And I would say mostly our bike fit better than most of the shops, I have to say. If you can be good and you come to a shop where they really can make a perfect measurement, which maybe can be even more individual and better what we can do online. Uh, but you also can go to the shop and they're not really able to sell you the right size. So I would today with our sizing system, which was a very important thing, I would say uh, we are not that perfect like a bike fitter. For me, a bike fitter, which I also was when I started my garage shop, I spent a lot of time on fitting. Uh, that at a bike fitter, I could say this for me is more like I buy a suit custom made for me. But actually, what I figured out over the years that I not always need a custom made suit if I have a good cut uh, and I know my size very well, it can suit very well. And if I have a custom made uh, suit, for example, and if I change, maybe it also not fit. And some also when we started with professional racers, for example, in the very beginning, I said we have to really fit everybody on our bike in a similar way, which I thought is the best way to fit it to these guys. But then I have to learn that they are very individual, and some of them, even of the professional riders, did very special on the bikes. So I said, these are professional riders. I give it up to fit them. They should fit themselves on the bike. But for sure, we have certain things that we can say, usually this bike side is right for this rider. And this works very well. But from my point of view, this is a key also to sell bikes online, to make sure that the customer has the right bike. And then if more and more customers are out with the right bike and they have fun, they recommend it to their friends. And this more or less is one of the important things why I say we were able over the years to sell many bikes all over the globe. And the customers are happy with our bikes because they get a very technical high-end bike at a very reasonable price with a super good value. But the price is the first uh, thing. A good price on our bike is part of our distribution system or part also of our thinking. For us, we developed one slogan, democratize performance, that we say, okay, we want to build the best bike, but we want to sell them to our customer at reasonable prices.
Right now, Canyon currently has a very desirable brand perception. It's right up there with arguably the best cycling brands in the world. But as you just mentioned, it wasn't always the case. It used to be viewed as a value for money brand.
Well,
What was the turning point and impetus for changing that brand perception around for you?
the turning point, I have all of these things are very personal. And it's like I told you before, I didn't make a big sketch and I say, this is how my company should uh, work. I'm a good writer. Maybe I'm a good entrepreneur, but I'm not an engineer. So the whole thing, then I told you the very first bike we more or less did together with our vendors in Asia. Then I hired a famous designer who also worked in the car industry. His name was Lutz Schäffer, and he did great designs on road bikes as well as mountain bike. And he had a certain knowledge also about engineering. But then the turning point was when we had to build our first carbon bikes, I have to say. When we built our first carbon bikes, I would say aluminum is somehow easy to understand, but with carbon, with layer up and all these things, it's more difficult to understand. And in the very beginning, we had a recall on our carbon bike um, was a carbon mountain bike, and the bike under huge extreme condition, the frame could crash. And uh, some of these frames had a problem in a magazine test, which was a big issue for us. Um, there was no customer involved, but in the magazine, uh, the bike uh, crashed under certain conditions, and then we decided to make a recall for this bike where we sold 200, which doesn't sound too much today, but at this time it was uh, super. Uh, was a really big number for us, and we were close to getting out of business. But what I learned from this thing, I have to get better. I have to get better. Um, we had a down point here, and we were not able to make it right. And then we sit down and we say what we have to do right. So at this time, for example, I went to Toho in Germany. There's only, at this time, there were only two Japanese companies who manufacture the carbon fiber, the raw material in the end, uh, where the bikes or the frames get made from. And I saw it was Toray and it was Toho. And I saw that one of these two companies, they had a subsidiary in Germany. So Toho had a subsidiary in Wuppertal in Germany. And I went to Toho after I had this recall, and I said, with my designer, we did the bikes, and I thought we did it right, but it seems we didn't it right. So I want to know everything about carbon fiber now. And this guy said, crazy guy. Uh, we are only a sales agency here for Toho. But they told me, Roman, close to you, there is a famous university in Kaiserslautern. They are maybe the leading university in Europe at this time for carbon fiber, because it was outgrowing many guys. It was heavily supported by BASF because it's close to them. They got a lot of funds from there. And so I went to this university and I told the university I had this recall. I want to learn. I want to do the best road bikes, what I can do. And the professor told me, Roman, yes, we can help you very well. Maybe you can raise 400,000 euros, uh, and then we can ask the European government to also support it, and we can make a project out of it. We can make a project out of this, also government-funded project. If you bring some money, we are able to get some money because you are a small business, and we will develop uh, the carbon fiber bike with you. And in this time, we learned a lot. We learned a lot with the university together, and there was one guy in the university who was in charge of our project, and his name was Michael Kaiser. So he developed the first Ultimate F10 bike with us, which at this time was the lightest and stiffest bikes after 3 years. And we really learned about carbon fiber technology. And the guy was making his doctor degree. So this was part of his doctor degree. PhD in the university, and after he had his PhD, I told this guy, Michael, do you want to be the leader of my engineering department? And he was thinking about it, but his professor told him, you better should take a job at Airbus or at Honda, which is in Cologne, which is close to us, and they had their development center for Formula One. And the professor told him, maybe you are the leader of the engineering department, but in the very beginning, you are the only engineer. And actually, this was truth, but Michael chose to be the leader of my engineering department. We hired more engineers, and today we are a group about 50 guys he is leading. So Michael was, yeah, so Michael was the key guy that brought me from a, yeah, sales-driven company with knowledge uh, to an engineering company. And Michael developed a lot of good things, and because of his university background, of all his engineering knowledge, he was also able to bring the right people to my team. So today we have a super strong engineering team, um, and this is because of Michael Kaiser. who is a key part of my company, very German thinking engineer. And the other thing is I always was interested very well in design. So different from other companies, together with Michael, we also hired, I would say, much more designers in my company than in other companies. It's not only engineers, we also have a lot of designers for each project that in the end, if you see our bikes today, you also see a design philosophy that you can see different bikes fit together in a design language we have. But Mike was the guy, this was the big turning point that we really, from a shop driven bike guy, go to the scientific thing and really worked in this direction. So I have to give a lot of thank you to Michael.
Was Michael a cyclist and did he have a keen interest in the sport, or was he interested in the project and challenge ahead of him?
He was different than I. So I was a racer when I was young. I think he didn't was a racer, but he always liked bicycles. He always liked bicycles, but he wasn't a racer, but it was his big hobby was cycling, even when he was a kid. So he was not a racer, but he was a cyclist, very open. So there both of these things coming together. And in the end, when I ask him today or a few years later, why you make the decision to go to Canyon instead of going to Airbus, where he has a nice offer, he says, "Oh man, finally, it was so exciting for me also to go with you to Asia and this." And what I figured out with my knowledge, I can have much more influence because I can work on a complete bicycle. In Airbus, maybe I would only work on the last portion of the wing uh, as a uh, so this, and he says, this is the job I like. So this was a great finding for both of us. So I think he helped a lot to develop my company, but on the other hand, I also could help him a lot with the freedom I gave him to develop his team and to develop himself. So this was really great for the company.
This podcast is fully funded by our members at Escape Collective. In fact, all of our content on our website and our podcast network is 100% supported by our members who believe that cycling media should be independent from the sport and industry we cover, and that we should exist to serve you rather than live or die by our ability to be a platform for the sole purpose of selling you more stuff. If you enjoy this podcast or any of our other work and believe in our mission of independence, please go to escapecollective.com/join and become a member today. Thank you for your support. How did you raise the money to end up being able to do this university project? Did it come from family and friends, angel investors, or was it just from your own profits?
No, actually, I loaned it from the bank. We had some money, so we had not a lot of money, but I come from very, very small, so I always was educated at home. Yeah, I have to save a little bit if I want to spend in the future. And if I only have €1 or $1, maybe I better should only spend 80 cents, something like that. But then I used some of the money, what I had, and tried to, and I loaned it from the local bank. I loaned it from the local bank, this money, and I could convince them that the money will come back because I already was some years in business. They believed me. And I have to say, at this time, the local bank had a little bit more freedom, and the guys in the bank, they also were cyclists. So this was good for us. I would also say this kind of banks we have here in Germany also very supportive to the local business. So this was really good.
So it was a good bet then. You saw a return on the investment towards creating your own carbon bikes and technology?
Yes, it was like this, but I also can. It was not a good bet. I believed in it. I was sure that I can, I have to say. And I was so eager to make the at the same time lightest and stiffest bikes. And so we were really learning a lot. And after we had this bike, the idea was I personally never could make it to the Tour de France, but maybe my bike can make it to the Tour de France. And so I said, I want to sponsor a world tour team. And our very first world tour team was not a really world tour team. It was Team Unibet, who was uh, riding in the big races, but they did only 3 or 4 races because then they were not allowed to race anymore because of the Belgium lottery. They said online betting companies should be not allowed to advertise. So we put the money in the team and it didn't work out. So this was again another lesson. But 1 year later, I was able through this to sponsor the Omega Pharma Lotto Belgium team. And in this team, Kettle Evans was an Australian guy. And Kettle, I would say, was not always the easiest person for us. So Kettle in this year want to win the Tour de France. And we had a time trial bike at this time. I have to say, the time we had this great ultimate road bike, which from my point of view at this time already was maybe one of the 1, 2, 3 bikes in the peloton. It really was a great bike, but our time trial bike, if there are 18 teams, I would say maybe we're number 12 from performance. Uh, and Kettle complained a lot to the team. He said, I cannot win the Tour de France with this bike. There are other bikes in the peloton that are faster, and more or less the team pushed me very hard and make a huge fair. They say, buy the bike from another company and just paint it Canyon. And I say, sorry, we will not do it. This is something we will not do. This is against our philosophy. So this is our bike. We tried to make it as good as, so we tried to change some details. But anyway, it was not the fastest bike. But what we did at this time, the goal was we want to have the fastest time trial bike in the world. But unfortunately, Kettle was not able to ride it because he went to BMC, and it took us 3 years to make this bike because Bert did it very scientifically. He said, okay, before I started, I don't copy anything. I want to know more how aerodynamics in cycling works. So we did a lot of studies. We went to the wind tunnel. We did simulations in the computer. We bought uh, the software to do all these things. But it took us 3 or 3.5 years to have the first bike. But in the end, we had a super fast bike, which helped us to get finally guys like Jan Frodeno, to get guys like Patrick Lange, but in the road field also, that in the end, a team like Movistar a few years later would say, okay, time trial is very important. And we are always looking to win the Grand Tours or to be very good. And time trial is a big thing. So in this way, your Australian guy helped us a lot to get better because he was pushing so hard. And we really want to understand it. And proudly, I can really say everything we do today on our bikes, we really understand. We really understand, and we want to go to the limit, but not going on a trend. We have a clear idea what is right and what is wrong for us.
But you did have a big success at that time. I mean, Cadel Evans winning the world championships on your bike in 2009. How did that feel?
I was there in Mendrisio, and on this day, I was so proud. I was so happy. It was the greatest day at this time in my life. I would say it was unbelievable. But when Kettle came from the race, we want to do some pictures with Cadell, and Kettle already was very strange. He didn't want to have with our bike because already 2, 3 weeks before he signed a big contract with BMC. We were world champion on our bike, but the jersey you could see 1 year later on BMC. The only race he raced on our with the world champion jersey was the Tour of Lombardia. Yeah, so it was a strange thing for me, but we learned a lot from him.
You did keep that bike, though. I've seen it in your showroom in Koblenz.
Yes.
Does it make you proud when you look at that bike?
It was an important moment for me, and I'm still very proud. I have the bike here. I have pedals um, signature. But I would say the second World Championship we won on the road, and fortunately I also was there when Valverde was world champion last year in Innsbruck, uh, makes me even more proud because this was on a different level, also on a different connection with the team all over the years. Uh, yeah, but these moments are really, really great moments for me in life. I also was at Harrogate this year, and I have to say there was one round to go, and I was saying, "Wow, it looks like we will be world champion with Mathieu van der Poel this year." It was all 13K to go, and then suddenly 10K to go. I said, "Oh, there's a problem with the bike. Maybe he has a flat tire. Maybe there's a problem with the shifter or whatever." But in the end, he just ran out of batteries.
You appear to have a very close connection from a sponsorship point of view, anyway, with Matthew van der Poel, and he's clearly a good man to get behind. What in particular excites you so much about him?
He still has this kind of lightness. He is still a big child. You can really see that he loves and he enjoys cycling, and he enjoys cycling in any kind of area. So you can put him on a road bike, you can put him on a mountain bike, but he even likes to go on a downhill bike. He complained to us, he said, "Oh, you promised to give me a downhill bike. So far, I didn't have my downhill bike yet." At the downhill, he goes on downhill tracks because he loves any kind of racing, and he is so light in the race. And on the other hand, he has a huge pressure on the race because there's already some expectations they have to him, but he can handle it in a very light way.
With a guy like Van der Poel riding your bikes, does that correlate directly to sales? Can you say that? I mean, your Lux cross-country bike is a bike that always seems to be in high demand and hard to get. Is it safe to say there's a strong correlation with sales and sponsoring someone like Van der Poel?
It has then a correct relation with sales if the bike is great. And I would say a Lux bike, it's really a great bike. And together with Mathieu van der Poel, it works good for us. We similar can say this for Speedmax bike together with Jan Frodeno, but it has to be right on both sides. It has to be right on both sides. Also, our the in-flight Mathieu van der Poel is riding in the cyclocross races. Actually, is a very innovative bike, which before might be also some risk. It has deeper angles like other bikes. Its corners a little bit more agile. So it was not the regular bike he was used to. But Mathieu van der Poel is also a guy, he ride it, and he is not afraid. He ride it and he can say, I like it or I like it not. But if he likes it, he is so self-confident that he says it's right for me. And now after 2-3 years, I can say that the team, for example, is super happy with this kind of bike. Before, maybe other teams would have said, maybe this is too extreme from geometry for us. But sometimes you have to be ahead. And Mathieu van der Poel really support this. He also supported when we bring a new bike. For him, it was never something to be on a disc. Some other guys in other teams, for them, it was a more big transition to be on a disc bike. And some guys told me in another team that they say, Roman, it's difficult for us to race on a disc bike because the bike is 250, 300 grams heavier right now with the rotors, with the bigger hubs. We cannot win a race on this bike. But Mathieu van der Poel can win many bike races on this bike, and he never ever thought about it because of course, this bike has other advantages in rainy and all the situations, but he thinks about the fun, the opportunities, what can go, and he is not thinking, oh, because I don't have this and that, maybe I will not race. He is so self-confident in himself that he can enjoy the whole cycling sport. And this is, I don't know anybody else today who has this fun and charisma like Van der Poel. You also know when you see it in the races, he always gives 100% and maybe more than 100% in the very end. Uh, and if he is on the podium and if he is second, it's really like a champ. If he is second, maybe he is very close to tears. And everybody else, if he would be second on a mountain bike race behind Schurter, uh, he would say, "Wow, I'm so close to Schurter." But for him, he says, "No, I want to win the race." It's clear, go there, I want to win. But it's also wants to stay out, but it's not in a way uh, that I push so hard that I have to do it. No, it's more, it looks more easy from his side. It's more like a game. It's more like a child is playing a game, and I'm so excited. And maybe these are the things in the very beginning why even if the professional rider can go out of battery in a race like Harrogate because he was so excited about the race in the
Well, it shows how hard the race was, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah.
So, circling back to you and your journey with business and Canyon, did you grow in your early days on retained profits alone, or did you have to go and seek outside investment to get unstuck from those awkward stages of growth that many businesses go through?
The growth in the in most of the years was always make some money and take all the money and risk it for the next step. So this was ongoing for 15, 20 years. When we made the decision, finally, we want to be a global brand, and global, the last big step for global means for us that we want to go to the United States. Finally, I had to recognize it's better to also have beside my own money, to have an investor in the company that helps me to fund the business, but also helps me to be better organized as a global business. So around 3 years ago, I sold one part of my company to an investor who helps me to grow the business to a global business. But before it always was, even if the business was already at a big level, every penny, every money we make, 100% invested in the company.
So you sold a stake in the business to TSG Private Equity in 2016, I think. I imagine you had many conversations with different options for investment. Why was TSG a good suitor for you?
I have to say, for many years, I was approached by many private equity companies. I was, uh, I choose them because in the end, I had the feeling that this is a company who wants to help to grow the business and not say, okay, we have to save money, we have to have a better margin here. No, they are more in the way that I say, what are the things we have to do to grow the business? And they help us to investing in the right things. And it was a process, I have to say, that took 2.5 years. And TSG always came back and they say, Roman, we understand you are not ready yet. Is there something, if you want to do something in the future, we are there. So it was a relationship building from them also for a few years, for 2 years in the end. And then when I say, okay, now is the time we have to go, there still were some other options. But actually, I have to say, I'm super, super happy with TSG. This was a great decision from my side because they helped us in many areas. They helped us also to make a success in the US for us, which as a German company is not that easy. But after years in the US, I have to say we exceeded all our expectations there.
Do they provide expertise and resource around e-commerce that's benefited Canyon? They have a portfolio of heavy hitter consumer brands like backcountry.com, so I assume they do?
This is one of the benefits from them. This is one of the benefits. They helped me. Before I told you, uh, it made a big difference when I hired Michael Kaiser as a key engineer in my company, or now the head of all the engineering. But TSG also helped me to hire more of these guys in different area to strengthen each area. And maybe in the beginning, I would not be open to spend so much money for the right guys in every area. So we strengthened a lot of our team, like in a soccer team. If you want to go from national level to global level, want to play in the Champions League, yeah, you have to have the right team together. So well, we built up a better team in every area, which finally you also then can translate in the business that we get over the time better in customer service, we get better in supply chain, we get better in all these project management areas. So they help me to get confidence to build a stronger team in my company and to further develop the culture. But they also help me to do the right investment in uh, online digital things. I'm very happy with choosing these TSG guys as my partner.
In the summer of 2015, I visited your showroom and new assembly factory in Koblenz. And you also had another temporary assembly factory that I didn't get to see. I think it was like an old Coca Cola factory or something. At the same time, you were also migrating over to SAP. What was that time like for you back then? It looked like the business was going through a massive transition at the time. Can you tell me more about that time?
This, this was a super challenging time for us. So this was also one of the biggest steps we had to do. So we went from a normal factory. In the factory we had before, in the old factory, we built the bikes in a much more simple way. And now we had a super advanced factory, which we want to change. And the factory is oriented on car industry, which many digital things. In the same time, we made the move to SAP. And actually, I have to say, it didn't work out in the beginning. It didn't work out uh, the beginning because maybe we did too many things at the same uh, time. But again, I would say uh, what is different in Canyon and also from this thing, we learn from our mistakes. So for me, the big challenge was this was another critical point in my company. But I say, okay, what we have to learn from this, and what the key learning from this is, if we do these big projects, we have to have a much better project management. So the reason in the end why it went very well for us in the US, because then we really planned like a huge company our entrance to the US. It was a 1.5 year project with maybe 100 guys involved with professional project management. And I would say we tried to do this when we did the new factory and the SAP, but in a totally different way than we do it today. So this was also a time that was critical for us. And this was also the time when TSG came in. But for TSG, it was clear uh, we will overcome these issues. Uh, and this is also what I say for me personal relationship and partnerships are very important. And they also, in this difficult time, react like a partner. And they give us support to overcome these problems instead of saying, okay, Roman, now with a new factory, maybe you are losing everyday money because it didn't have the output we were looking for. We had some issues with our uh, customers because we were not able to deliver the bike in time. But we did a lot of improvements in this area.
From memory, you ended up coming out and publicly apologizing for a lot of these missteps and growing pains you were going through at the time. Were you happy with the way you handled it, or in hindsight, would you have done it differently?
I would handle it the same thing. Uh, so I have to apologize and then I have to improve the thing. So in the new factory, I can tell you, we were planning to produce 300 bikes a day, uh, but we were only producing 80 bikes. And when I uh, asked, and it was not on purpose that we uh, delivered too late to our uh, customers. But when I talked to my team and the team, everybody gave the best in the team. I'd ask them how long it will take to go from 80 bikes to 150 to 300. They say, Roman, give us another 4 weeks and we will improve it. And yeah, but after 4 weeks, we went from 80 to 85. And then maybe we went to 120 and again back. So it was a longer issue. And today, I have to say, it was not SAP what was wrong. It was just that we were not professional enough to handle this thing at this time. And this is most of the time when you do I would say most of the companies who do a IT change, a big IT change like this, then suddenly everything is process driven. And since I'm the entrepreneur from the beginning, it was not everything process driven. It was mock-up driven. Uh, but we overcame all these things. Today, we are proud to have a factory that runs far more than 300 bikes a day. Uh, and yeah, it's getting more smooth and smooth. Yeah,
Now you're a 100% direct to consumer business. And to my understanding, you only have two
yes,
showrooms, a relatively new one in the US and the original in Koblenz, Germany.
yes.
At one time, you were very set on the idea of not having a physical presence all over the world. Is this a strategy you're starting to reconsider?
No, I think this is the way to go. Uh, I think if we want to be, for example, more successful in Australia, uh, it would be good to be closer to the market, that also people can more feel and touch our bikes. So I think what we learned from CarSpot in the United States, that it's a good idea to have more showrooms. But it's not that we are planning to have several hundred shops, but we're planning in each of the markets to have also a physical presence in the future.
Are sales stronger where showrooms exist?
Yeah, I would say uh, this helps a lot. In the end, it's a whole trust thing that you can feel and touch the things. But I even would say my personal feeling is, if I know there is a showroom in this country uh, and I see that this showroom is working very well, even I have a better feeling if maybe I cannot go to the showroom right away, because maybe the showroom is in Sydney and I live somewhere else, but I have the feeling that also other people going to the showroom can help this physical presence to make this brand closer to the customer. And the people in the showroom, of course, they get the physical uh, experience, and this is a way we want to continue in the future. And I think this is no secret. This works in many industries.
Being a direct to consumer brand that you personally created from nothing, you don't have any filters and gatekeepers that the traditional model of using distributors and bike shops have. I mean, when people criticize Canyon for issues, they come directly to Canyon. Whether it's on the forums or social media, and that. And I imagine many of your customers can also access you directly. I mean, your
Yeah.
email address is easy to figure out. So how do you deal with that? And do you ever take that personally?
It's a part of the business. I have to say, in the beginning, it was very difficult for me. But actually, today, uh, nobody likes to see that somebody is criticizing you publicly. Sometimes it's the critic is right, but sometimes it's also not in the right way, and it's also very personal from the guys. But in the end, I have to say, I really appreciate when I got the feedback direct from the customer. This helps us to improve, and this is a way to improve the business. Uh, yeah,
I think it's safe to say that Canyon's one of the more innovative bike brands out there. You guys do a lot of interesting things. I mean, everywhere from the shape shifter on your mountain bikes to the crazy Grail handlebar design. Tell me about your first reaction to the design of the Grail when it was first presented to you. How did it come about and what did you think at first?
yeah. With Grail, I have to say it was maybe much more easier than you think it is. Uh, they didn't show me the interim steps of the Grail. We have a way that when we develop a new bike, uh, there's the product managers in the team, the engineers are in the team, the project managers are in the team, and the designers. So they developed it, but uh, there are certain steps uh, where they have to show the bike to the top management and especially to me. So there was a final presentation of the bike, and of course, I was very surprised. I said, "Ooh, double deck handlebar. Oh, it surprises me." But when I go deeper into it, actually, I was super, super proud on my team. And even if I know it's somehow risky because it's a polarizing bike, I saw all the advantage, and it got free within the same meeting. So I went out of this meeting and I say, I'm so proud to have good engineers, but also here to have this very innovative designer uh, in this team. And the designer uh, yeah, is maybe not afraid to go over the edge or to really go far. Uh, and I'm super happy that I say, okay, let's go for this project. We know I personally, this is my favorite bike. I ride this bike. I ride also uh, now in Girona because I like the Girona area very much, and there are a lot of gravel bikes. So this is my gravel riding. This is my bike I have stored in my Girona home, and it's a great bike. And I don't want to have any other gravel bikes. But of course, some of our customers they say, uh, and I also see all the advantage, which I don't want to go into now this bike. But there are some other customers they say I would prefer to have a more normal handlebar. We have the aluminum one with more handlebar, but we also will offer as a second option uh, very soon a carbon bike with a more normal handlebar. But I personally think still the Grail is the best bike, which we also will continue in the next few years. So, but I'm happy that we not only do what people expect us to do, that we have the confidence that we can do something more.
Maybe a couple parting questions for you that are more
Like,
reflective on your whole journey with Canyon. Would you do all this again if you knew what you were getting into from the beginning?
yes, I would have done it again. And actually, I have to say, even with some obstacles and this, it's still so much fun every day. It's it's a lot of fun. And yeah, I would done it again, and many things I would have done in the same way with getting more experience and look older. Of course, some things I would have done differently, but more or less I would done it again. And I'm so happy and thankful that I have the opportunity to do this.
One last question that I always like to hear people's responses on. How much do you put down to Canyon's success to hard work, luck, and smarts?
I would say it's. I would add one more. Maybe if you say I would give 1/3 to all of this. Uh, You have to work hard, but you have to have lucky. There are so many critical situations, like in a race, uh, to win a world championship, to be in the peloton over years without bigger injuries. You have to have luck. You can be the best rider, but you have to have luck also. But you have to train hard. You have to work hard, and then you have to be in the right team. So when you say smart, in the end, it's a team effort. So if you be able to build the team to make the right partnerships with internally the people, with companies like TSG, with industry partners. So all these things have to come together. So I would say it's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3.
I'm Wade Wallace, and thanks for listening to another episode of Overnight Success. If you have suggestions on a remarkable entrepreneurial story within the cycling industry, hit me up on our members Discord channel where I'd love to hear about it. Until next time, stay inspired and stay tuned for our next episode.